All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me this Wednesday night as we continue our study through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. We've had a little bit of some cooler weather this week, and I have to say I'm really enjoying it. I enjoy the cool, crisp weather that fall brings along with it. It really, it just takes me back to football and to the holidays, to Thanksgiving. We got a pretty good game coming up this Saturday between the Crimson Tide and the Kentucky Wildcats, and so Roll Tide. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I'll have I'll be smiling during that game. I better not be smiling too much. We might get beat, but it'll be a good game regardless. I'm looking forward to that, as I hope many of you are as well. I hope you are developing the habit of praying at 5:11 every single day. We have a good number of people on our prayer list, and so we want to do our part. We want to go to God on their behalf every single day and mention them and their health issues and the things that they are struggling with. Some of you have wondered why 5:11, what's so special about that? Well, if you look at 5:11 in military time, that is 1711. And so good reminder for all of us how important it is to be searching the Scriptures daily and praying to our God every single day. If you have any prayer requests, please get those to me by tomorrow night, and I will get them in our Finally Friday email. If you are visiting with us, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday night. I hope that our study will spiritually enrich you in some way and encourage you in your own walk with the Lord. And if there's anything that the Versailles Church of Christ can do to help you, then please reach out to us. There is a link in the show notes below that will take you to our website. You can find information all about us, who we are, all the ministries that we're involved with. And on the home page, there is a Contact Us button in the bottom right-hand corner. Just click that, and it'll take you to another page where you can input your information as well as any prayer requests you might have, or maybe you have a Bible question. Send them to us, and we'll do our very best to help you, to answer your questions, to maybe study with you, to pray with you. We'd love to do that. And then let me also encourage everyone that has not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I think we're up to 78 subscribers now with our church's YouTube channel, and that's awesome. Thanks to everyone that has already done that. We're close to 100. It'd be really cool, really awesome to hit that 100 mark by the end of the year. So, all that aside, let's turn to our text this evening. We are continuing Jesus' study of the Sermon on the Mount. He's already declared, I have not come to abolish the law, I've come to fulfill it. And then he addresses first the subject of anger, and how if, in the old it was, you shall not murder. But Jesus says if you have anger towards your brother, if you allow anger to consume your heart and your mind so that you look at someone with vile thoughts, with evil desires, that in itself is equal to the physical act of murder. So we need to be diligent. We need to work hard and strive to be reconciled with those that we might have harsh feelings for. That's what Jesus says. Hey, leave your offering at the altar and go be reconciled with your brother. Let's not allow anger to fester in our hearts and lead us to hate someone else. The next issue that Jesus addresses was also a hard issue. But this hard issue is tied to the subject of lust. So let's read our text. Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body go into hell. Now, just like the subject of anger, Jesus ties the subject of adultery and lust with one of the 10 commandments. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 14, you shall not commit adultery. Now, going back to Jewish interpretation of that leading up to this time, some treated this commandment not as a command of purity, but as a kind of a special kind of theft. The adulterer, if you broke this law, the adulterer would have been guilty of stealing the exclusive rights of the married husband. A husband had the exclusive right to have a sexual relationship with his wife, and if a sexual relationship existed outside of that marriage from another man, then that fornicator, that adulterer, has stolen from the husband. It's kind of weird because this perspective treats the wife as a piece of property, which is to be expected considering the time period and the culture. Women were not viewed as equals. They did not have the freedoms that are available today. So it was kind of, all right, it's a form of theft. Then the Pharisees come along and they understand the command a little bit better, we might say, but they still missed the point, because the Pharisees taught that, the only way you can commit adultery was through the physical act of a sexual relationship itself. That was it. Jesus, he's bringing about the fullness of the law, as he says, because he presents a different perspective and he ties it with the heart. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. Verse 27. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So let's first touch on what Jesus does not say. Jesus is not forbidding what is natural and normal for mankind. It's okay to admire the beauty of a woman or a beauty of a man, because beauty or handsomeness, it comes from God. It's a gift of God. What's not okay is to dwell on that image to the point that it becomes lust. I read where someone said the first glance is not a sin, but the second that dwells upon the flesh transforms into lust and takes what God has created as pure beauty and transformed into a sinful desire. And I think we have a great illustration of that whole process occurring with David in 2 Samuel chapter 11. The text says in verses 2 through 4 that it happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house, that he saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful. And David sent and inquired about the woman. And one said, is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? So David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. And then she returned to her house. David woke up, or couldn't sleep, got up. It's late afternoon, maybe right there at dusk, the sun's setting, and he's gazing across the city, watching the sunset, and his eyes catch the naked, because she's bathing, so let's get the obvious out of the way. This woman bathing on another roof. David, being a man, is visibly attracted to her. The text says she was very beautiful. She was attractive. And David looks, and that look becomes a leer, and idolatry occurs. Not the act itself, not yet, but it happens in David's mind, in his heart. David would not be denied with what he saw, what he wanted, what he lusted after, even though he was told, hey, Bathsheba, she's married. And not only is she married, but she's married to one of your own soldiers. Yet David's look led to a sinful fantasy, and that fantasy led to the very act of physical adultery. That process, that entire thing is not limited to David in the story in 2 Samuel. It plays out over and over again today. People, men and women, will look at someone else and will go beyond what God has created and allow their physical emotions and desires to supersede the spiritual part of their body, the spiritual part of themselves, and commit sinful actions. So how do we fight what not just is a physical act, but is something that is intricately tied to our heart and our mind? Well, Jesus provides an answer, verse 29 through 30, and it might be a little extreme for some, but Jesus says, if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body go into hell. Now, before we get into what Jesus says, here's a Bible trivia question for you. This line of discipline that Jesus uses is not the only place that he talks about this. So how many other times does Jesus use, maybe not exact, but a variation of this discipline, this extreme discipline? And I'll share the answer next week to that question. So Jesus says the answer to dealing with lustful intent in the heart is to pluck out your eyes and cut off your hands. Well, there have been some cases in the past where people literally followed what Jesus said. They plucked out their eyes, they cut off their hands, or Origen of Alexandria cut off something else. In all cases, the act of physically cutting off a part of your body may remove the ability to perform such actions, the ability to look at such actions, the ability to go to places and feel and touch things that would lead you to do sinful actions, but you still have to address the issue of the heart and the mind. I don't believe Jesus is telling us we need to literally do these physical actions. I think what he's using such language to say, if there is something that would come between you and me, if there is something that might separate us from Christ, we need to be ruthless in how we get rid of it. We need to take as drastic measures as possible to protect our spiritual well-being. And not only our spiritual well-being, but we need to take drastic measures to protect the spiritual well-being of our brothers and sisters in Christ. Now, when it comes to our vision, Jesus is saying, hey, you need to control your eyes. And, he's addressing this to everybody, but men need to listen to what he's saying more because we're wired differently. We're more visually stimulated. So, to put this into practice, don't look twice. A godly man, a man who is doing his very best to try and live a godly life, must not take a second look. When talking to a woman, a godly man's eyes must stay touched on her eyes. Because when you let your eyes wander, then your eyes become sensually enticed. And when they become sensually enticed, well, that leads to adultery. I mean, Job had some wisdom about this. In Job 31, he said, I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze at a virgin or a young girl? What would be my portion from God above and my heritage from the Almighty on high? It wouldn't be much, because he goes on to say, it's not calamity for the unrighteous and disaster for the workers of iniquity. Job made a covenant with his eyes that he would not lust after another woman. And so Christian men and women, we all have to do this. We need to make a covenant with our own eyes as to what we look at. And we need to be aware that, sensual imagery is everywhere. It's on billboards. It's in Walmart. And then, every form of media that exists today, it's present. And the sad truth is, if we're not aware of it and we're not actively trying to avoid it, then we become desensitized to it, to the point where it doesn't bother us. So we need to take some extreme measures if necessary. Walk away. Change the channel. If we're talking to we can only control ourselves. So if we're talking to someone and they don't have the same spiritual beliefs that we do, and they're wearing some clothing that's a little bit too low cut, too high cut, too tight, too revealing, we need to be talking to them and looking at the corner, looking at an earring, looking at the strand of hair that's sticking up on the top of their head. Anything. We need to do everything, whatever it takes, to keep our eyes from sinning. And Jesus isn't, he's not suggesting some kind of legalism, some kind of, all right, here, you need to develop this list, and everybody has to follow this list to keep your eyes from sinning. No, he says, if your right eye causes you to sin. So, not everyone's right eye is the same, right? We're all different. We all stumble over different things. So we need to be aware of our own, the own things that might cause us to stumble, and do what's necessary not to do what's necessary to avoid them, but also not try and bind on others what they may not struggle with while we do. But then Jesus also mentions if your right hand causes you to sin. There are things that our hands don't need to handle. There are places that our feet do not need to take us. I mean, let's be honest. David would have been in a lot better shape if he had stayed on the couch and not got up. Joseph did what was right. In Joseph's story, Potiphar's wife is attracted to him and presents herself to him. And what does Joseph do? He runs away. He possibly would not have been able to resist if he had hung around. So Christians, we don't need to dance with the sensual. We don't need to, because if with any sin, if you just pitter patter around it, if you dance around it, I don't know, I can't really think of another illustration to make the point, but you have to stay away, because even getting near, at some point, you will stumble and fall into it every time. And in this case, the issue of lust and adultery, the physical act may not happen itself, but if it creates a thought in your mind, a picture, or a desire in your heart, that's just as bad as the physical act. Paul tells the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians chapter 6:18, flee from sexual immorality. Run away from it, as Joseph did. He tells Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 22, so flee youthful passions, and do what instead? Pursue righteousness and faith and love and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. So the focus for all of us should be developing a pure and righteous relationship with the opposite sex. A pure and righteous conversation with the opposite sex. A pure and righteous perspective of how we look at people. How we look at our brothers and our sisters in Christ. I've told teenagers before, and as they get these relationships, hey, make sure Jesus is in the middle. Jesus needs to be in the middle of everything we do. The conversations that we have with people, the thoughts that we have about people, the desires we have about people. Jesus needs to be present in all those things. So Jesus has informed us of something we all need to be mindful of. Adultery. It's not just a physical sexual act. It's something that occurs in our heart. And we are guilty of sin if there exists lust in our heart towards someone else. If there exists a fantasy within our minds that is only for a married couple, that is sin. We sin when we lust with our own thoughts and desires. We were created with in God's plan for us to follow Him, not to follow our own fleshly desires. So to combat such sinfulness, to combat the things of the heart and mind, let us all do our very best to think about and put into our heart what is good and holy and pure. I'll leave you with a great passage, Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8. Paul says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, If there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And I would add to it, and place those things in your heart. Place them in your heart so that your heart is so full of good and pure and righteous things that there is no room for lustful. Would you bow with me as we close? Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for blessing us with time to come together through technology and to study your word and to listen to the words of our Savior as he guides us, as he directs us, as he helps us to grow in our faith. Father, help us to be faithful to you and faithful to each other through our relationships. Father, you've told us that lustfulness and adultery is not tied just to physical, but it's tied to what we think and what we desire, Lord. Help us to have pure thoughts and desires towards each other. Help us not to do anything that would be a stumbling block to each other, Lord. We don't want to lead each other astray. We don't want to lead each other into sin. And we want to have pure thoughts towards each other, holy thoughts. We want to do our best to lift each other up and help each other as to be faithful, to remain faithful as we walk through this life. Forgive us when we fail, Lord. Help us all to grow. Help us all to grow together in Christ and as your church. Be with those that we care about. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Thank you for joining me this Wednesday night. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Bundle up because it is cool, but I think it is going to be a little bit warmer the next day or two, so that's exciting. May God bless you. May God bless you and your family with grace and peace. I look forward to being with you this coming Lord's Day. We will be gathered at the building at 10:30 for worship services. Encourage you to come be with us if you can. We are wearing masks. We are social distancing, but we are able to be together to worship our God. And it's always a glorious time. It's always an encouraging time to be together to worship Him. If you can't be with us, we will be streaming through our YouTube channel, and you can join with us there. God bless and have a wonderful, wonderful week.